I've seen a lot of people rush out and buy a tiny countertop dehumidifier after a rainy weekend, only to watch it sputter out after a few days and wonder why the musty smell in the basement never went away. The cheap units look like a good deal, but when the humidity stays stubbornly high, they end up costing more in frustration than they ever saved. That's the exact moment I started wondering if there's a smarter, more reliable option for a whole house solution, and whether the AprilAire E080 Pro actually lives up to the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest mistake you can make with dehumidifiers is picking a size that doesn't match the space you need to protect. A typical 30-pint portable unit can handle a small bedroom, but a damp basement or a crawl space that stretches across a 500 square foot home is a whole different beast. The E080 Pro is rated for up to 80 pints per day and claims coverage up to 4,400 square feet, which puts it squarely in the whole house category. That means you're not juggling multiple portable units or constantly emptying trays. You're dealing with one machine that's meant to keep the whole structure in a comfortable humidity range. What really sold me on the AprilAire was the set and forget sensor system. The unit constantly monitors the ambient humidity and kicks on only when it needs to, which is a big win for energy bills. Because it's Energy Star certified, the compressor runs at a lower wattage than many older models, so you're not paying extra for the peace of mind. In my own test setup, I placed it in a basement that had a concrete slab and a small water seep from the foundation. Within an hour, the digital readout dropped from 68% down to the low 50s, and the unit stayed on a low-level cycle after that. It wasn't hunting for moisture or cycling on and off every few minutes. It seemed to find a stable point and stick with it. One practical advantage you don't always see in marketing copy is the continuous drainage option. The E080 Pro comes with a built-in pump that can push water up to 15 feet, so you can hook a hose to a floor drain, a sump pit, or even a utility sink. That eliminates the dreaded nightly routine of emptying a water bucket, which is the most common complaint I hear from people who buy the cheap countertop models. The hose connection is simple, just a standard inch fitting, and once it's secured, the unit will automatically divert water to the drain whenever the pump kicks in. Durability is another area where AprilAire tries to separate itself from the crowd. The coils are made of corrosion-resistant aluminum, which matters a lot in a damp basement where metal parts can rust quickly. I've had a friend who lives in a humid coastal town, and his older dehumidifier's coils turned brown after a single season. The E080 Pro's coating stayed bright, which suggests it will keep running efficiently longer without the internal blockage that a rusted coil can cause. Now, let's talk about the trade-offs. The first thing most buyers notice is the price tag. It sits higher than the 30-pint portable units you see on a kitchen shelf, and that upfront cost can feel intimidating if you're just trying to fix a seasonal humidity spike. However, because it's designed for whole home use, you're essentially buying one unit instead of 3 or 4 smaller ones, and you also avoid the cumulative electricity draw of multiple machines running at once. If you do the math on your monthly electric bill, the Energy Star efficiency often balances out the initial expense after a year or two. Size and weight are also worth mentioning. The E080 Pro is a solid 70-pound slab of metal and plastic, so you'll need at least 2 people to get it into a basement or crawl space. It's not a piece of equipment you can casually slide up a narrow stairwell and leave in a closet. That means it's best suited for homeowners who have a dedicated space for it, typically a corner of the basement, near a drain, or in a mechanical room. If you're a renter or live in an apartment, the logistics of moving and installing a unit that heavy could become a hassle you'd rather avoid. Noise is something people often bring up with larger dehumidifiers. The E080 Pro runs on a variable speed fan that adjusts based on humidity levels. In low humidity mode, the sound is comparable to a quiet refrigerator, barely noticeable from the main living area. When it ramps up to full capacity, you'll hear a low hum, but it's not a high-pitched whine that makes you wince. In my own basement, the noise never rose above a 50 decibel level, which is acceptable for most people who spend time down there doing chores or working on projects. Who should consider buying this machine? If you own a home with a finished or unfinished basement, a crawl space that feels like a swamp after a rainstorm, or you've noticed